6 o'clock. Call a meeting to order with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, let the record reflect that all board members here and accounted for. Board chair's comments. Thank you all for coming tonight. That's all I have. So looking for approval of the agenda.
We make one addition to the agenda.
What's your addition?
We can put it under 10I, but we need to put somebody on the safe deposit box.
10I. Good memory, 10I. All right, 10I will be safe deposit box. All right. Are there any other amendments that need to be made? I have one. Upcoming meetings. We got a meeting scheduled for December 13th, right? Is that the one we want to move?
Yeah.
And we're going to move that to the 14th. Am I right on that?
No, we were gonna move it to the following week unless.
The
you
following week, there we go.
Because it's school day.
Yeah, I forgot what we were going to
If
move.
that's the
Can I
21st
say
of,
something about that? That's truth and taxation. That's a public hearing that's gone to every resident in the county. You can't change the truth and taxation piece.
That's fine.
Yeah. I'm just
Yeah.
saying that
Yeah, okay.
that part goes to all the residents. It's on their
statement.
Statements. All right. The reason we wanted to move it was because there is a band concert at the same
Fire council.
choir concert at the same time.
It starts at 7, so we can still do truth and taxation. The fire concert starts at 7.
Yep. So how about let's just do the truth and taxation yet on the 13th. And then the regular meeting to the next week.
Is everybody here that next week?
I'm good. I never leave central Minnesota. So. I have a phobia about the whole deal. So they're like, you've been to Paris? No, is that in central Minnesota? I ain't been there. So
I'm good.
everybody good with that? All right, so that leaves the truth and taxation at 6 o'clock on December 13th, and then regular board meeting on December 20th at 6 p.m. Everybody's good with that? Is there any other additions or what do we call them? Amendments to the agenda? Hearing none, somebody like to move the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Was approved by Director Lang and seconded by Director Roaring to approve the agenda as amended. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All who abstain. Motion passes 6-0-0. Appreciation, recognition, and presentations.
I'll introduce, we have a time schedule because Autumn has to be home for the finale of Dancing with the Stars at 7. So I was given explicit instructions. I kept it quick. I'd like to introduce our 3 fall students of the month. These are nominated and voted on by staff. Autumn Shainrock is the student of the month for September.
Yes.
Of course we would use it. Mca Scores, the student of the month for October. And then Callie Van Erden. You see Callie's got a little mark on her forehead. This isn't a very student of the month like thing to do, but she scoped herself and here. So we're expecting more. We're expecting more. But these are 3 very, very deserving students for Students of the Month. Dependable, good students, good role models, participate in multiple activities, always function at a very high level in the building. They're fun. They're just great kids to have in the building. And there's a little piece of me that's, it'll be sad to see these guys go because they have done such a nice job as representatives of our students in our building. So Students of the Month.
We have certificates for you. Michelle. These together.
Yeah, you good. Oh, all right, 1, 2, 3. All right, very good. There we go.
Thank you.
Autumn, you can definitely make the voice.
We made someone before I sit down.
My name is Michael Marshall. Been a part of the district for many, many years, and very proud to recognize Aaron Borish. I am the cross-country coach, and I've coached Aaron seven years actually. Back in the day, we used to have 6th graders, and she has had just an outstanding career running cross-country for Royalton. I get many compliments and quotes from different coaches that I run into and say, "Gosh, is there another Borish coming?" And so no, she's the last one, and so she's qualified for the state meet 3 times now in her career, which is awesome. And yeah, she would be severely missed. Just a great leader on our team, and yeah, just can't say enough good things about Aaron. So congratulations on a great career.
Hold on. I need to coach.
Absolutely, you can cover the other.
Russ, you're gonna.
Ah, dang it.
There we go. Okay. Got it.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We have other presentations? Okay. Recognition of citizens for input purposes. Recognition of citizens for input purposes. All right, moving on. Reports and news. Board committee reports. Does policy have anything they want to talk about?
Most of our policies this time were mostly minor changes, just to law changes and a couple words. Looking at the protection and privacy of records and acceptable use for internet in the school, things like that. And then the other ones we've talked about previously in board meetings already that are for the second policy reading. So that's really the update.
Okay. Are there committee reports?
New State did not meet this month. They didn't really have anything on their agenda, so they just didn't meet. They'll meet probably in December.
Okay. Any other committee reports? Superintendent's report.
So I would like to introduce tonight our new business manager, Scott Murray. Scott's going to come up. You can stand at the podium wherever you're most comfortable. He's with School Management Services, and after tonight, we'll be taking over the responsibilities of business manager, and we're very excited to have him. And welcome. If you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, great.
Yeah, so thank you for the introduction. Easy for me to say. I do numbers better than I speak. Hopefully for your sake, right? But so I work for School Management Services. We work with 45 different districts plus throughout Minnesota. I'm doing business manager, account, payable, HR, payroll, all that stuff for all the districts. And so it's a pleasure to be here and work with all of you and pick up where Donna is leaving off. And if you guys have any questions, please by all means let me know. I look forward to presenting how I present to my board meetings, board members next month at the next board meeting. Any questions for me while I'm here?
Are you looking for a full-time job, Scott?
I have 2 of them right
Right
now.
now, yeah.
Maybe 3. But yeah. Any other questions?
No, welcome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
So very excited to have Scott. He's been with us all day today and got to have tours of our buildings and meet everyone and be a part of our leadership team meeting today. So that was wonderful. Hit the ground running. Already had lots of questions and you know how that goes. So it's wonderful. I wanted to give the school board an update on a data request that we received. So as the board is fully aware, about a month ago, we had received a data request regarding ESSER funds and how they were used, and it was quite extensive. However, after that board meeting, we had shown the entire budget that night. Don had given us a budget update, and that data request was rescinded. So therefore, we were not under obligation to produce those documents, which saved us thousands and thousands of dollars. However, following that, about 4 days later, we received an additional request asking for 7 different items. The first one regarding all communications with Sourcewell for the past 3 years, and then any information around seed, and then a third around this, and I apologize, I can't remember the name of the company. We don't work with them, so I'm not sure what that was about. And then, what was that? Region 5. And then 4 additional items regarding the hiring process for my position and then me personally. I had asked for clarifying information from the requester because again, the first 3 are so incredibly broad, all text messages, emails, etc. around. Sourcewell communicates with us daily. So that would be thousands of emails that, remember, a law firm would have to review to redact information or look for any information it has to redact. So even if it's not there, they still have a duty to look through it, because if we were to ever give out data privacy information, we can all be held liable for that. So I have now produced the items for the last 4 requests, and then asked the person to come in and inspect. And I've also asked again for clarifying information on the first 3, just if we could narrow that to save us those additional dollars. I've not heard back from the person. So we have an obligation to fulfill the request. It's not something that they have to respond to. So even though I asked for clarifying information, they're not required to provide it. We, however, are required to fulfill it unless it is formally rescinded. So at this point in time, we're looking at potentially having to have our law firm go ahead and look through those first 3 questions, which will be thousands and thousands of emails potentially over the last 3 years. I don't know yet what that could cost. I will do another follow-up call tomorrow to our attorney as a follow-up to see if we can get some sort of estimate. I don't know that he could even tell us at this point because we don't know
the number of emails.
We don't know. Again, it's every single staff person that we don't know who Sourcewell all, again, they provide our professional development. They provide a lot of resources for us. So they're emailing principals constantly. They email me, my predecessor. Remember, this is for the last 3 years. So prior superintendent's emails, our finance people get emails, teachers get emails, paras potentially get emails. So that's kind of where we are with this. And I wanted to make sure the board knew this because we are going to be doing an HVAC presentation, and I want to give you an update on that prior to this agenda item that's coming. Any questions for me about that?
Well, I think I asked the last time, Dr. Verkamp, how is this going to impact our students' educations? And I really have a little problem with that. I mean, I absolutely believe that we need to be totally clear as to where monies go. However, some of that, I don't know why you can't look it up yourself. This is all information that is supposed to be public. And I don't know why that has to fall on the school district to have that happen. No, I absolutely agree that people need to know if they need to know, but then do a little busy work yourselves. Don't just dump it on the district and then take it away from our children's education. I just don't see that as fair.
I have checked into, what happens if we don't do this, and there's civil and criminal consequences for the school board and myself. So
I'm not saying that we can't do it. What I'm saying is the request to me is extremely harmful to our district and to our children. And I'm not afraid. Come and get me. I really am not afraid. I'm really saddened by the fact that people do that. It breaks my heart. And I got a pretty old heart. So, yeah.
So I just want to make sure everyone is up to date on that. And on a lighter note, I don't know if any of you were able to go to the play, The American Revolution in 60 Minutes or Less. I think they did it in 49. It was great. I just want to tell you, our kids are amazing. And I think I'm excited about our band concert tomorrow night. These are the things that have me come back to my job every single day. Is because we get to see our kids in action and they are truly amazing. If you could have seen the King of England, I'm serious, you would have been laughing so hard. He was phenomenal. Nate, he was awesome. These kids work so hard, and this fall we've had an opportunity to have a real regular fall compared to last year, and it's wonderful. And I just want to thank our teachers and our paras and all of our support staff for the work that they do every single day, because when you watch that, that's pretty awesome. You saw Erin Borsch come up and go to state tournament cross country. I'm sorry, there is no way I'm even gonna attempt to run those routes, right? And she's going to state tournament. You think about our football team and how far they went. Our volleyball team worked so hard. Those are the wonderful things that happen every single day, our FFA and the success that they've had. And so I just want to say thank you to all of our staff, and I'm so excited about what's coming this winter when we move into our new sports. And I just want to thank all of our staff, because without them, and our parents, without them and their commitment to our kids, it wouldn't happen. So on a lighter note, I want to say happy Thanksgiving to everyone, and thank you.
All right, you done?
I'm done.
Principal's report. I don't want to steal our thunder.
We're having a fun day tomorrow. Celebrate the end of the quarter. It's Hat Day, which sounds, oh, what's so big about a hat day? But it's part of the pause program, and so they get a celebration at the end of the quarter. And for them to be able to wear hats, that easy. Big deal. And it's also the RIF book distribution with the Thanksgiving theme. So 2 very fun things on the day before Thanksgiving break. And everybody's worked hard and they're ready for break, students and staff. So to say goodbye in a positive way, and hopefully we'll all be in a good mood and get some rest. Wonderful.
Just a few things. I have the band concert tomorrow night at 6. It's a split concert with one group at 6. And then the next group will perform at 7. That configuration we tried last year due to COVID restrictions, but it really turned out nice, is that you didn't have people exiting the gym while the next band was playing. that everyone kind of stayed, and then we finished that concert and they all went and the next group came in and then we played for them, and so we're going to try that to do that again as kind of a normal. As a supervisor of band concerts, it is wonderful to try not to have to supervise 150 of them after they're done playing too. That's a added bonus. The other thing is the school district, we are working, Director Hofstad and myself and the Lions Club are working on doing vision testing for the school district. I have to talk to Director Hofstad. We might have to push that back a little bit if we can. Just getting some of the spreadsheets and communications home in the past that we've had to do. We're running into Thanksgiving break and it's been crazy. Brian and I can meet about that afterwards, but our goal is to test every student in the district because we missed the vision testing was incomplete last year with COVID and we were in distance learning. If you have not seen it in action, I would invite board members. I think we can do that, or at least have even a demonstration beforehand. If we can't have you in there with the students, I don't think there's an issue with that. But the cameras that we use are $8,000 to $10,000, and you sit down and look at a little flashy light, and it takes a picture of your eyes, and it tells you recommended for a doctor visit or no, you're good to go. If they're recommended for a doctor visit, we print them out a sheet and they take that to their doctor. The nurses contact parents to let them know that they're going to be sending something home. And I believe the last time we did it, we did all of the elementary and then grades 7 and 10. And I think we had 7 to 10 new referrals that we did that they were unaware of any vision concerns with their student. And for those students who are in early literacy programs or learning to read, our ability to catch a vision problem before it happens can mean the difference between success and failure over the next 13 years. And so it is a central, as a Lions member, it is a central mission of our Lions Club is vision. And so this project hits right at the heart of the mission of the Lions. It helps out the school district at no cost to the school or the families for this service. So if you have a chance, the machines are interesting. We actually went through a training, a bunch of us last year. We went to Foley and on an evening and got trained on how to use the cameras. And it really is it is an amazing device that we'll be using. So that's all I had.
All right. Athletic director report.
All right. I think we've got a band concert tomorrow night. We've wrapped up fall. We had our last our wrap-up meetings, our parents, students banquets. So those are all wrapped up. As of today, we have started our winter seasons, all of them. Boys basketball and wrestling started tonight. Girls basketball started last Monday. These short weeks are difficult to navigate when you start the week of Thanksgiving, where you're able to get a couple practices in and you can't practice Thursday. And then as an athlete, kind of shoots your weekend because you got practice Friday and we got some scrimmages heading up on Saturday here for boys basketball and wrestling. And then we're off and running with our competitions next week. So our girls are ready for their first game and we'll travel to Albany next Tuesday. And then our first home game will be the girls. They host Long Prairie Great Eagle on December 2nd. So 5:45 here at home. So that's exciting to get going on those things. Junior high boys have been going. They're about 45% done with their season already. We've got a ton of home games for them, so we don't have to travel, which is nice. But they have their CMC tournament next Saturday in Maple Lake. So that's coming up on December 4th. So we have band concert tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. And then we have no school Wednesday, but practices. When we talked about the choir concerts on the 13th at 7 p.m., that'll be all in the South Gym. We've had our play, our performances. a couple weekends ago on Saturday and Sunday, 7 p.m. for Saturday, 2 p.m. matinee for Sunday. The drama program wanted to do this one last year, and they were so excited about it, and there was so much enthusiasm, and then it was a hard stop. So this production's been a long time coming to get it going. Yes, they had to retry out the positions because people graduated, and but it was good. It was good to get them all performing. And then that rolls us into the one act play that we're going to gearing up for here. Well, auditions the first full week of December, then they'll choose their production and then get going on for practicing. And then at the end of January, we'll have a public performance, then they'll do their subsections and sections, and away they go. So we're off and running.
Okay. Moving on into the agenda, we have the consent agenda. The board will be consenting to approve all items listed below as presented at one time. At any point, and any director can pull any item off for the consent agenda for further discussion. Somebody like to move it?
I just learned that one of the people who was going to take a position is not. I'm not sure if it's on the consent agenda or not. It had to do with the long-term preschool, so. Libby Harold, she decided to resign that, or she's just not going to take it, so we don't need to approve, take that out of there.
Okay. So let's remove the name Libby Harold from the hires.
I just got the email a little bit ago.
Okay. Is there any other things that need to get pulled from the consent agenda? Somebody like to move the consent agenda? I'll move it.
Second.
So it's been moved by Director Hofstad and seconded by Director Baumann to approve the consent agenda as amended with the removal of Libby Harold from the hires. This will include the approval of regular board meeting minutes for October 25th, November 8th, the special meeting on November 8th, the work session on November 8th, and special meeting minutes for November 18th. All claims, accounts, and financials. Approval of resignations and approval of new hires with the exemption of Libby Harold. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All who oppose? All who abstain? Consent agenda passes 6-0-0. Discussion, information, and action items. Approval of donations by resolution. Have that here. What we have is a donation for $4,500 from the Royalton Wrestling Club for new singlets and transportation upgrades. Somebody like to move this?
I can move it.
Member Hofstad introduced the following resolution and moved for its adoption, whereas all information included in your packet. Whereas the Royalton Wrestling Club has generously offered to donate $4,500 to the Royalton High School Wrestling Activities Fund to go towards new singlets and transportation upgrades. Whereas the conditions on this gift are included in the packet. Therefore, be it resolved by the Royalton School Board to gratefully accept this gift. The motion adopted. A motion for adoption of the foregoing resolution was duly seconded by member
So moved.
Lang, and upon a roll call vote being taken thereon, the following voted in favor of. Will you call the roll?
Director Bowman,
Aye.
Director Garretts.
Aye.
Director Hackett,
Aye.
Director Hofstad. Aye. Director Lang,
Aye.
Director Roaring.
Aye.
In favor thereof, all of us. Voted against, no one, and the following abstained, no one. The foregoing resolution was approved this 22nd day of November 2021, 6-0-0. Thank you to the Royalton Wrestling Club for your donations. All right, audit presentation by KDV.
I'm Jackie Knowles with Bergen KDV. Tonight I'm going to be going over a summary of the results of our 2021 audit, and then also going over a brief presentation of the financial results for the year. Yep, okay, perfect. So the main purpose of our audit is to offer our independent auditors report. So in this report, we talk about management's responsibility, which is for the numbers in the financial statements, and then our responsibility as auditors is to test those amounts and offer an opinion. And this year we can offer an unmodified opinion or a clean opinion. It's the same that the district has received, and it's the best that we can offer. And what that does is that provides assurance that the numbers in the financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects. We also are required to offer 3 additional reports listed out here. These are required by various state and federal agencies. So the first one is the government report related to government auditing standards. This is required because of some of the state and federal funding received by the district. So with this report, we take a closer look at the district's internal controls over finances, and then we look at compliance with certain grants, laws, contracts, and regulations. We didn't have any compliance findings, but we did have 1 repeat internal control finding, which should sound familiar to the majority of you. Lack of segregation of accounting duties, so there is just a small accounting staff needed to handle all of the accounting duties. So we do recognize that there is some overlap with 1 person handling multiple steps in the transaction process. So just for the board to be aware of that. The second report that we issued, this is a new one. Oh, sorry, second bullet point. This is a new one. So because the district's amount of federal expenditures this year crossed over the $750,000 threshold, we were required by the federal government to take a look at certain federal programs. And the ones we had to test this year were child nutrition and the coronavirus relief funds. And we did not have any findings related to either of those programs. Both of those checked out cleanly. And then the third report we have listed here is a requirement of the Office of the State Auditor. So they require us to test for compliance with certain state statutes applicable to Minnesota school districts. So looking at conflicts of interest, how you're investing funds, how you're doing bidding, going up for quotes, things like that. And we did not have any legal compliance findings there either. So clean reports all around except for that 1 repeat finding for lack of segregation of accounting duties. So then we'll move on to the financial analysis. And we'll look at some trends over the last 5 years. So this first one's probably hard to read unless you have it up on your computers, but this takes a look at the basic formula allowance. So this is the basic amount of money the district is getting per pupil unit served. And you can see you've gotten some 2% increases over the last few years, including 2% for 2021. So the basic amount you're getting per student served for 2021 was $6,567. So I want to point out that that 2% doesn't mean your revenue went up 2%. That just means that the basic amount per student went up 2%. And we'll see how that factored into your revenues in a couple slides. But of course, the other main contributing factor is going to be where your students were at this year. So we do have a few slides looking at student counts. And this next one takes a look at residents. So what this means is this is residents or students residing within the district boundaries that are attending a public school. So it might not necessarily be Royalton, but they reside in the Royalton boundaries. And you can see for 2021, that number did go down a little bit. And that's what we're seeing across basically all of the districts that we're auditing this year. And a lot of that had to do with the shift to homeschooling because of the pandemic. So those homeschooled kids are not included in any of these numbers. And then on the next slide is just that same information presented graphically. So you can see 2020 was kind of a peak year, and then 2021 dropped back down, but it was more in line with where students were back in 2019 and 2018. And then the next slide, there are some weighting factors, which are actually in a couple slides. It's not in the best spot, but basically all of your students are weighted at 1.0, and then the 7 through 12 graders are weighted at 1.2. So you get a little bit more money for those secondary students. So these weighting factors are applied here. And then we do have the effects of open enrollment broken out as well. So the bottom number includes open enrolled kids, and that's where that basic formula allowance, that $6,500, that's what that is applied to. So you can see your adjusted number was down as well, driven by that decrease in the resident students. Again, the same information graphically, so you can see 2020 was kind of a peak year, and then that decrease in 2021. And here's that slide that was probably not in the best order, but here's the weighting. So you can see secondary at 1.2. Everyone else is just weighted at 1.0. And then the next slide just looks at your changes over the last 5 years. So 2020 was that large increase, especially in the residents, and then we saw those decreases of about 3% in 2021. So then we'll get into the actual revenue for the general fund and how that all came into play here. So that first line is going to be your property taxes. That was up a little bit in 2021. There was an increase in the board approved levy. That second line, that's the largest number, that is the state revenue. And so that was down about $450,000 or so. And that was because of the decrease in students. So that's where you see that. Also, your state special education aid was down as well. And the main reason for that is because special education transportation expenditures are fully reimbursed. With those expenditures coming down, your revenue was down as well. And then the final number includes federal, and that's where we see the large increase. And so that was the new stimulus money this year, the coronavirus relief funds, the ESSER and BEER, that's going to be in that other category. So in total, revenue was down about 0.5% in 2021. And again, same information graphically, revenue went up each year from 2017 to 2020 before coming down 0.5%. And I don't know if you want to zoom out a tiny bit on this one, or maybe go all the way over if you can. So this is going to be budget to actual. So we have the original budget approved by the board, and then the final amended budget approved by the board, the actual, and then the variance column is the actual compared to the final budget. So looking at that variance column, you can see all of the categories of revenue did come in over the budgeted amount. So being conservative with those budgeted revenues. Kind of the same story on the expenditure side. So you were conservative with the expenditure budget. So all of the almost all of the programs for expenditures came in under budget. And then the bottom line you can see, so with the final budget, the board anticipated pretty much a break-even year, budgeted for fund balance to go down in total about $13,000. Because of that conservative budgeting, fund balance actually went up about $464,000. And then this next slide does take a look at that spending a little bit more closely. So you can see expenditures were about $9.5 million. In 2021, they were closer to $9.18 million in 2020. So they were up, but they were up across almost all of your programs. So kind of an even allocation of that increase, which is what we typically like to see unless there's something very explainable, something kind of significant that went on during the year. And the other thing that we also look at with expenditures on these pie charts is what percentage of the district's spending is being spent on instruction. So that means adding up regular, vocational, and special ed. And when we add up those amounts for 2021, we get 63%. MDE has recommended in the past in that 60 to 65% range. So you're right in line with what they've been recommending. Then we do have some comparative information. So the most recently available comparatives are for 2020 from MDE. So this looks at revenues per student served in the general fund. You can see you had an increase of almost $300 in 2021, and that was kind of a combination of revenues just going down about 0.5%, but your ADM served went down about 3%. You are still below the statewide averages. When I looked into the detail for that, a lot of districts have a much higher operating referendum, so more tax levy dollars coming into a lot of other districts. Also, your state special education funding was less, and that just kind of depends on your student population and your costs for special ed. Here's that same information graphically. So your highest amount of revenues per student in 2021. And then expenditures per student served in the general fund. Similar picture to revenue. So you did see an increase in 2021 as expenditures were up about 3.5% and ADM served was down about 3%. And similar to revenues, you're going to be below the statewide averages. You're going to spend what you receive in. So you're going to be below the statewide averages for spending as well. And again, the same information graphically, a little bit of a U-shape to this chart or this graph. So you're more in line with where you were in 2017, but there were some decreases in expenditures in 2018 and 2019. This next one, I don't know if I'm going to slide all the way to the other way. So this is a 5-year summary of where your general fund has been at. So we take a look at revenues for the last 5 years, expenditures, and then you can see the effects on fund balance as well. So focusing on that 2021 column, we talked about how fund balance went up about $464,000 in total. And then the components of fund balance are listed in the bottom half of this table. So the restricted, which are the majority of the detail listed out there, again, those are the MDE kind of mandated set asides. So some of those did go up. Operating capital, staff development, LTFM was all up, just kind of spending less than you received in those specific categories. And then the other number of significance is the second from the bottom, that's your unassigned fund balance. So that was about 1.925 million at the end of the year. That went up as well. And that number is important because that's the number that is addressed in the district's fund balance policy. And the district's policy sets a minimum fund balance goal for that unassigned to be 15%, a minimum of 15% of expenditures. And when we run that calculation for June 30th, 2021, you are at 20%. So you are in compliance with your policy at the end of the year. This takes a look at total fund balance compared to cash and investments. We would expect these to correlate really closely because the state has been on the same payment schedule for the last 5 years. Sometimes when they're in kind of a budget crunch, they do change up that payment schedule, but that hasn't been the case for the 5 years presented. So those do correlate very closely. And then the next slide is another way of looking at fund balance. And this is a calculation that comes straight from the Minnesota Department of Education. And the comparative information comes directly from them as well. And so this way we can compare the district's fund balance percentage to the rest of the state. And so you can see in blue, your number has been pretty close to the statewide averages. That assigned fund balance in the gray bar does put you above. That's something that's $470,000 that the board approved in fiscal 2020. A set aside for maybe potential roofing projects and the reading program. That's what that is. So that amount does put you above the statewide average, and then you had a little bit of an increase in 2021 that we had talked about. And that was it for the general fund. So we'll just take a quick look next at food service. And there was a decrease in both revenues and expenditures this year. In this fund, there was a decrease in the number of meals served with the pandemic, but the important thing to point out, even with that decrease in the number of meals served, still operating positively, an increase in fund balance of about $11,600. And then the next fund is community service. And we also saw a decrease here in both revenues and expenditures, as well as a result of some programs not fully operating during fiscal 2021, again with the pandemic. But again, the other positive, same as food service, this fund is also operating positively with the programs that were running during the year. So an increase in fund balance in the community service fund of about $43,000. And then this last graph, this was requested a number of years ago, so we put this in. But this just looks at your debt service requirements till the bonds that you currently have are paid off. So you can see one of the bonds gets paid off in 2032 and it drops down a little bit. And then the last bond is paid off, I think, in 2036. Scroll all the way over. But that just shows the principal and interest due. And then that was it for what I had prepared. I can take any questions. I know it's a lot of information, but just want to give you a snapshot of what happened during the year and recognize Dawn for all of her hard work, because everything, as I reported earlier, was clean and just that one repeat finding. So.
Yeah, go ahead.
So for the repeat finding, obviously we can't afford as a district to have multiple accounting teams. But now that we're outsourcing it through a third party, but does that change that? Does that help with that?
It might. We'd have to look next year exactly what changed. But yeah, if there's more hands kind of touching each transaction process, it could definitely improve that. I don't know if it would totally get rid of it, but it could improve it. So.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So because the ESSER funds were required to do the federal compliance check, is that a once you're in, or if we don't exceed that 700,000 next year, will we not have to do that?
No, that's an annual thing. So if you spend more than 750.
But is it once you're in though, you're in it all the time? No.
So let's say you would drop down after the stimulus stopped, then no, then you're done. So yeah, it's a year by year.
Well, there's some of them things, once you're in. I mean, it's every year then, you know?
Keep coming with those dollars every year.
Are there any other questions? I had one question. I don't know if you're the right person to ask, but when we're talking about the weighted on the students, and we call them secondary and elementary, what do we call secondary?
7 through 12.
7 through 12. So even if they're in this building.
Yeah, that's just MDs.
Okay. I wondered if there was a classification with that. That's what I was wondering. So any other questions? All right, well, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
And Dawn, thank you for your work. It's nice to have clean findings. Nice to have clean findings, so.
No finding.
Well, no, clean. That's what they said. That's the best thing they can give you is clean. I was listening. So, all right, moving on, the HVAC update.
So I have Tony DeVell here and Dawn as well to help answer any questions any of you may have. I just want to give you an update on where we're at with this. We'll go to the next slide. As you know, we had accounted for, kind of go back a little bit here. We received 2 funding streams through ESSER 3, right? One of them was a little over $500,000 that were really open as to what you could use those dollars for. And then you had the learning loss bucket, and a little over 100,000. I want to give you just one little caveat that we just learned about on the learning loss dollars. Got a little over $100,000. We submitted our application as I stated. They came back with, oh, well, we actually split them, so do another application for the 161 fin code, which is a learning loss. So we did. Then they came back and said, oh, well, by the way, if you're going to fund your 2 positions, our behavior interventionist and our reading specialist, using these dollars, you have to, you ready for this? You have to submit a theory of change model, a logic model, and an evaluation model to go along with each of those uses, because those dollars are being used during the regular school day and not after school. So I called MDE and said, we have 930 students. There's no way we're gonna use $100,000 in after school and summer programming by 2024. We don't have enough staff, we don't have enough kids. They're already busy. What are they gonna do? So I said, we need these positions. They said, yeah, great, go ahead and use them, but you have to do this theory of change model, this logic model, and this evaluation tool. I said, I don't have a team of teaching and learning people. In the metro, you can easily just pull 3 of your team out. They're centralized, they're not in the students. You can say, give them that task for 2 weeks. They'll do the research, they'll get it done. We don't have that. They said, yeah, well, this is what you gotta do. So I got a logic model template. I have a theory of change model template. I called up some resources with Sourcewell. I got our principals together. We got a couple of other teachers to come together and have some really good thought partners, and we will put together these documents so that we can get this $100,000. I don't know what some of our other districts have planned, but that's a lot. And I can tell you, I've checked with some of our surroundings. We're like, yeah, we're using it for behavior interventions too. I'm like, of course, because that's what you need. But then, so anyway, just want to give you that caveat. All right. So when we wonder what I do all day, this is part of it. The other side, we had established that we were going to use part of those ESSER $3 to do HVAC work. And then based on our analysis, we decided to use some of the assigned fund balance, that $400,000 that she had referenced, to finish out the HVAC work. So we would have the elementary finished along with the gym, and then finish the high school. And then we are good, set, ready to go. So Tony did his due diligence, went out, got all the people, the construction people to come in, electrical people to come in and tell us what we're gonna do, and everything's looking good until we get to our elementary area. So if you look at this particular PowerPoint, our original estimates that we were, thinking this is on average what it would cost. The HVAC in the gym, about $72,000. And then the high school would be about $199,400. And then the total cost for those is $271,000. The new estimate on the gym was $64,000, so came in a little bit lower. And then the high school dead on. So I don't know how Tony did that, but dead on. So basically we had a decrease of about $12,000 from that original ask. The assigned fund balance is currently at $370,000. The revised assigned would be $111 if we use those dollars. Can we go to the next one? So here we recommended on how to use those ESSER dollars to complete the HVAC work. It's hard to see on there, but we were going to also purchase a 77 passenger bus, you can see as well. So we have $210,000 of upgrades to the elementary and the HVAC, and then we have a 77 passenger bus. I'm going to point that out to you because we're going to get to recommendations later. So keep going, please. The estimate for the elementary HVAC, our original estimate, $210,000, you saw it on that. However, when we went to work and got the electrical feedback from all of our different groups, Climate Air came back at $177,000, UHL at $37,500, Oak Electric Service at $89,000. With those estimates, we now have an increase to that overall project of $95,000. So rather than it being $210,000, it actually came in at $305,000. So a little bit more than what we had originally projected using. Next slide, please. So we went through and talked about some options of what we could do to make this happen. Number one, you wouldn't have to do it. However, we still leave them a portion of our elementary that's not air conditioned. So you have some teachers that get to work in air conditioning and others that don't. You get some students that get to be in air conditioning and some students that don't. So we talk about that. So some options to continue doing it was, remember, we put $100,000 back on that ESSER money because we didn't know what would happen in the next 3 years, right? That contingency fund. So those are dollars that would be available for use. The second piece is we could use the rest of assigned fund balance to offset that expense. We could also use a portion of our operating capital, remember that too as a fund balance, to offset this added expense. Or we could not purchase the bus and then use what was designated for the bus along with the remaining of the contingency fund to offset that additional $95,000. So the reason we were saying we could probably hold off on the bus is, as you know, if ESSER 2 funds, we bought a new bus. Our buses currently we're not at the, oh my gosh, for emergency, we have to have a new bus. It was more kind of like, wow, we have this extra dollars, might as well be on top of things, because if we do in our near future, we're ready to go. It doesn't feel as much of a need now when you're looking at a bit more limited in dollars with this added additional requirements. So we're making a recommendation that we go here, but I've given the board several options that you could go down a different path if you so choose. But I do recommend that we do these HVAC projects, because again, like we said, we got the audit because we got additional influx of $750,000. Likely of that happening again, not strong. So we might as well take advantage of a one-time fund for something that lasts 50 years. But
well, discussion. I have some discussion here. I have some opinions. And I'm plastic on it, yeah, but I just, when I watch it, I worry that $68,000 bus in 2 years is gonna be $95,000 bus. We have the money in the assigned fund balance. Either that or the contingency funds would cover it, one of the two.
Or combinations.
Or, yeah, you know, I feel like the board thought that this was a project that they wanted done. Is that, I mean, that's the first thing we still want to do it. Is everybody still on board with this? Even though it's going to cost $90,000 more than what it was supposed to?
Yeah, I think it's needed.
We need to do it.
Yeah, I think that's I just thought, I mean, that's the first decision we have to make, and then we just got to figure out how to fund it. So
the increase was electrical, right? So even if you do a portion of it, so let's say we decide not to do the gym, you're still going to eat the electrical because you have to do the upgrade, right?
Tony, I'll let you go.
Well, the electrical.
it is not enough power.
We didn't do the gym, I would say. Of course, you'd save the 65,000 just for the units. I would say probably 10,000 off of the electrical bid and probably a few thousand off of the controls bid too, because that's all in there. So you could be pushing 80,000 off of there by not doing the gym.
And I guess I'm not necessarily suggesting not to do the gym. I'm just curious on if you,
Can I just say one comment about the gym? I just go back to last summer when we had our most robust summer program and we had the fires up north and you could not have a window open and I couldn't have those kids outside at all because of the air quality was so poor. And then you're in this hot gym. So I just come back to that whole piece of when we run into situations where kids can't go outside and it's still hot, but they have to be moving. There lies some issue.
Randy, I guess I think I was on the same, I think I'm of the opinion we should still purchase the bus. But can we use, so we have the 100,000 contingency, can we use 50 out of that and then 45 out of the assigned fund balance?
Yeah.
Well, let's all have our eyes open here because, I mean, we get into this, there might be another $40,000 somewhere. We don't know. That happens sometimes, right, Tony? I mean, there could be another $40,000 bill by the time we're done with this because we never know. I mean, when we did this here and the pumps went out, I mean, who knew? You know, it's just when we open a wall up and stuff, we don't know.
But, yeah, there's always a surprise.
So I'm in favor of not using all the contingency money yet.
Yeah.
So,
and I don't know what this data request is going to cost.
That was my question, but
we'll just use general fund.
Okay, I was curious where that would come from. So we're not draining an account that now we're going to have to.
Yeah, it'd be the general fund. So that 1.9 million or what have you, that's where that comes from. So it'll take that 20% fund balance of just the general fund unassigned would.
On a side note, if we continue to get these, is this something that we're going to have to levy back to the taxpayers because
we can't?
The thing is I think we have the money now to make these upgrades, and I think we need to do them for our students. That's the big deal. And as a taxpayer, and a big one, I don't mind paying for those kinds of things.
As a
No.
taxpayer, I think you can be pretty happy that our school is running at a 70-75% of the budget of the,
Randy, I was gonna
APU
say
of
that's
the-
because we've had really, really
you know,
good people
yeah.
in our
And
staff.
it's
Our
been good
principals
management,
never
so,
get mentioned, but you know, our IT people, all of those people working together makes that happen. But I do agree too, that we do need a bus probably. It's probably gonna be 90. So
well,
how are you
we
getting
didn't
that
decide that
out?
we needed it because we didn't, right? Just because something came up doesn't mean that we should, I don't know, that's the way I feel about it. It's, the team decided that it was a good idea to, you know, I know we prided ourselves in having the 3 oldest buses in Minnesota at one time, but I don't know that that's, I mean, that's a badge you don't have to wear.
We'd be okay without that one.
Yeah, you know, I don't know, it's. I just feel like if the board supports this, that's what the contingency money and the assigned fund balance is for. Not changing our plans that we had made. I don't know if you guys agree with that or not, that's the way I feel about it.
Mr. Chair.
Yes,
The assigned fund balance, I've heard the auditor say it was mostly assigned, you know, originally for roofs and whatnot. Our roofing is in very good shape.
you know, it's,
We're I would say 15 years away from, you know. Going by the, I've got professional roofers doing tune-ups on the roads every year. You know,
Yep.
between $5,000 and $8,000 we spend a year. Just right before the fall, we button it up.
Yep.
And go through the best way to look for bad roof is ceiling taps. So we go from room to room and we make a map of the building and we pick off. You know,
just found out that a leaky roof gets really expensive too with mold abatement, so.
Yes.
Yes, Don.
If that's, and it's a good decision, if that's the decision the board decides. But you do have to vote by resolution to change that assigned fund balance. Because it is assigned now for the roof and for that reading specialist, so you will have to, by resolution, vote to change that assigned fund balance.
Would you just do the portion that we want to?
That would be a board decision.
Yeah.
Just so we know.
You could make it a bit more general and just say for the work of the HVAC, and that way if it ends up another 10 grand or something, and just
Yeah.
go with it, not have to.
Yeah, we could just
Just-
change
and
the
just
wording of
inform
the
you.
assigned fund balance.
And then we just inform you when it would be have to prove it, you know.
But you do have 5 boilers that are 20+ years old. So it's something to think about in the future.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah. It's just like at church, if the copier or the furnace ain't going out, you ain't got a real church.
I'm in agreement with doing the HVAC still. I'm not so sure about the bus. Is that something that could just be held? Like that contingency fund, see how everything plays out with all the other bills coming in? And if we still have the money, then do it, like we have to do it now?
No, we don't have to.
I do have a room mark. They're on back order.
So that could be a future problem. Say with cars, you can't get cars right now and they're paying primo prices. To me, it doesn't seem like a time to buy a vehicle, but I don't know. I don't know how quickly we would need a bus though.
Yeah, so
I don't know.
if you fall out of line now, you may, I don't know, or maybe there'll be a lot. I mean, if everybody goes to distance learning again, there might be a lot full of buses somewhere. I mean, I don't know what, you don't know what tomorrow is, so I mean, that's.
Well, we had the crunch, what was it, 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago, where we were in desperate need of a bus.
Yes.
And didn't have one in the budget for like 2 years, and then
Yeah.
we finally used the assigned fund balance to buy a bus that will take care of exactly that. And yeah, I don't want to go back to that.
Yes.
Do we have like an extra bus on hand? Like, let's say one gets in an accident. Do we have one that we can, like, do
They
we have
send out,
some like ones that?
If something breaks down, I go.
I was just curious what we have. So theoretically, we could have funds set aside for it, but not purchase it yet if we didn't want to.
Well, we gotta draw the 95 from somewhere to cover the HVAC, so. Esther was gonna,
But that could be the contingency. If we take it from the bus now, contingency we can use for bus later, right? Or no?
yeah, we'd still need a portion of the contingency to offset the.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
yeah.
Need to pull the X
Yep.
somewhere, but yeah.
That's an idea.
Yeah,
I'd
you can
like to
still,
see
yeah,
this
we
back.
could use
So did we
100.
order the bus?
Yeah, is it on order?
Did we order them?
We had the state bid from
The approval, but
the pre-approval, and I got the state bid. We haven't ordered anything because they're on back order, and Chris is gonna let me know when they're in. Didn't pay to put it on order. Doesn't know when they're gonna come in.
Yes. Do we, if we decide to use some of that ESSER money for, you know, take it away for the bus, do we have to go back and amend the current one that we submitted to the Fed?
No.
No?
That's just a pre-approval to MDE.
Okay.
We have to go back and get an additional pre-approval for the additional HVAC. It's just to let them know that this project was this much more. We already got the pre-approval, we just gotta let them know that this is the additional cost, so we have that in writing, and they can come back and say, okay. But yeah, the bus is still pre-approved, we don't have to spend that this year.
we have till 2020.
But if we decide not to purchase the bus?
Nope, it's just a pre-approval.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
How close are we to starting on the HVAC work? I mean, is this, you're thinking spring, don't know for sure?
Yeah, spring, I mean, I guess that was one of the questions I was gonna ask today. I mean, do I give these guys the go ahead now?
After, once we get this
To order
decided.
equipment?
Well, let's answer that question right now for Tony. Everybody on board is gonna support this and because I imagine the prices are just gonna keep on going up.
So they'll hold the price on the air handler for the high school through December for us, so. We're locking on that one, it stays put at 194. The Univets for the elementary were a little bit volatile with the market. Wasn't certain if you could hold that price how long, but so we know we're going with this for sure.
Well, at the pull of the board, I would say you can go ahead with this project. We just have to figure out how we're gonna fund it yet. Has anybody got an idea to direct the admin team?
I think Angela changed my mind a little bit.
Okay. So you guys are thinking to take the $68,000 and then take what would be $30,000 from the assigned fund balance? Take $68,000 from the bus funds and take or take $30,000, the remaining 27 from the contingency. Is that what you guys are thinking?
I like that better personally.
Okay.
Because that'd leave us enough in a contingency to buy a bus.
Yes.
If we needed to. Or something else happens and we do something else.
Yeah, and I think we can, that assigned fund balance, if we decide that we need to purchase a bus, we can reassign that, do a resolution to include the bus and, you know, purchase a bus or whatever we need,
We're
right?
gonna have the chance to build that into a budget too, so. All right, so everybody's kind of in agreement, we're gonna go with administration's recommendation to do that. All right, we'll see that at the next meeting then. Right? Or can we vote on that?
No, I
now?
would vote on it now.
We can vote on that now. Because we don't have to do this by resolution.
No.
No.
It's not out of this one.
All right. All right, so now I need a motion.
A motion.
You know what your motion?
Yeah, do you want me to read it?
Yeah.
Motion to use the 68,000 that was designated for the bus to go towards the HVAC systems and pull the remaining amount due during, I don't know if you want to say like leave that open or.
No, I'd say the 27,000.
Okay, and then pull the 27,000 from the contingency that we had set aside for out of the ESSER refunds.
All right,
To go towards the HVAC systems.
sounds like a formal motion. Is there a second?
Only she can repeat it.
All right, there's Director Ball, it was moved by Director Bauman, seconded by Director Roaring to modify our ESSER-3 funds to take the $68,000 designated for a bus and move it to the HVAC and pulling the remaining $27,000 out of the contingency. Is there any further discussion? Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstain. Motion passes 6-0-0. All right, world's best workforce plan.
Good evening. I'm Amy Kruger. I am the Human Resources Director. So thank you, Chair Hackett, members of the board, and Superintendent Report. I am here to present, and all of you have seen this presentation before, but now want to share this presentation with everybody who is watching online and who's here in the audience as well. At any point in time, if you have questions, please stop me. But first, we're going to talk through our Mca scores from the last 4 to 5 years, which then lead into our World's Best Workforce Plan. So our Mca scores, we're going to start with 3rd grade. That's when kids start taking the test. And what you're going to see on all of these slides, math will be on the left, reading will be on the right, because it's really hard to see. The green trend line is Royalton, and the blue trend line is the state. And then on the bottom of each one, there is a table that will give you the different years, 2017 through 2021. In 2020, the MCAs, no, we did not take the MCAs due to COVID. So then the highlights are whether this state was higher or whether Royalton was higher in each of those. So these are 3rd grade overall math and reading scores. And then the next year, we're going to break down by gender. So on the left, you will see males, and on the right, females. This is 3rd grade math. And this is 3rd grade reading, males on the left, females on the right. And then because World's Best Workforce has smaller groups that they look at for making sure that we're making gains with the smaller identified groups. This is free and reduced lunch. This is our group of 3rd grade students, math on the left, reading on the right. And our special education students. You'll see that there's some broken data here. What happens is if the sample size is less than 10, we don't show those numbers because we don't want any students to be able to be identified out of the data. So the analysis overall from 3rd grade is that we were above the state percent proficiency in math and reading, 2 out of the 4 years, with the last 2 years being above. Free and reduced was above the state percentage proficiency in math and reading, 3 out of the 4 years, with the last 2 years being above. And then in special education, we were above the state proficiency percent in math the last 2 years, and in reading the last year. This is 4th grade overall, math on the left, reading on the right. 4th grade gender, this is math, males on the left, females on the right. And reading, males on the left, females on the right. Our free and reduced population. And our special education population. So overall, 4th grade in math, they were above the state proficiency in 2 out of the 4 years, with the last year being above. Below state proficiency in reading all 4 of the years. Free and reduced were above state proficiency in math 2 out of the 4 years, and in reading they were above in 3 out of 4 years. Special education was above in math 1 out of 4 years, and in reading 1 out of 4 years. And these are our 5th grade numbers overall, math on the left, reading on the right. And this is the first year that students take the science test. They'll take that in 5th grade, 8th grade, and then 10th grade after they take biology. So this is the first year of science. Gender for math, males on the left, females on the right. Reading by gender, males on the left, females on the right. And science, the exact same thing. Our free and reduced population for 5th grade. And science. And this is our special education groups, math on the left, reading on the right, and our science. So 5th grade overall, we were above the state proficiency in math and reading 4 out of 4 years, above in science 3 out of the 4 years. Free and reduced population was above in math, reading, and science all 4 of the years. Special education was above in math 2 out of the 4 years, and in reading 2 out of the 4 years, and in science 3 out of the 4 years. These are our 6th grade overall numbers, math on the left, reading on the right. This is by gender for math, males on the left, females on the right, and reading by gender. Our free and reduced population for 6th grade. And our special education population, again, with some broken data. The analysis for 6th grade, they were below the state proficiency in math and reading all 4 of the 4 years. Free and reduced was above in math 1 out of 4 years, and in reading we're above 2 out of 4 years. In our special education population in math was above 2 out of 4 years, and our special education was below in 3 out of the 3 years, with that last year not having enough data to really give us any sample size. This is 7th grade math and reading overall. And by gender, math, males on the left, females on the right, and reading. Our free and reduced population, math and reading, and our special education. So analysis of 7th grade, we are below the state percent proficiency in math and reading 4 out of the 4 years. Free and reduced, we are above in math 1 out of the 4 years, and in reading, we're above in 3 out of the 4 years. For our special education population, in math, we were above 0 out of 1 year because the other years have really broken data and not enough to generate a sample, some data for us. And in reading, we were below in 1 out of 2 years, with the other 2 years not having a large enough sample size. 8th grade is the year that the second year of taking the science MCA. So you'll see math on the left, reading on the right, and science. And then we took a class because this is the same grade all of the time. So we looked at data for one class and trended that out. This is how the class of the 8th grade class of 2026 has trended out in math, reading, and science. 8th grade by gender for math and reading, and then our science by gender, followed by our free and reduced population and our special education population, again with really no data in this one. So in math, we were overall above 2 out of 4 years. In reading, we were below in all 4 years. And in science, we were below in all 4 years. Our free and reduced in math, we were above 2 out of 4 years. In reading, we were above 3 out of 4 years. And in science, we were above 2 out of 4 years. Our special education numbers, again, just there isn't enough there to generate data. Then we moved to having a year off in 9th grade. Kids do not take an MCA. And then they take, in 10th grade, they take science test and a reading test. And in 11th grade, they take a math test. So this is math in grade 11 on the left and reading grade 10 on the right, followed by science grade 10. And then we trended out the 10th grade, so the class of 2024, as well as the seniors, the class of 2022. This is how kiddos did in gender-wise: math, males on the left, females on the right, and reading, as well as science. And free and reduced population. followed by our special education numbers for math and reading and science. So overall, in 10th and 11th grade, we are above in math 3 out of 4 years. We're below in reading all 4 years. We're above in science all 4 years. Free and reduced is above in math 3 out of 4 years. And in reading, we're above in 3 out of 4 years, as well as science being above in all 4 years. Special education math, we were above 1 out of 1 year, with the other years not having enough data. In reading, 1 out of 2 years we were above, again with the other years not having enough data. And then in science, we were above in 2 out of 3 years, with the last year not having enough data. So then when you look at this data according to subject area, in math, 6th and 7th grade are consistently below state proficiency percent in all 4 years. Grade 5 is consistently above in all 4 years. And every grade except grade 4 decreased from 2019 to 2021, which we would have expected to decrease just because of COVID and having some learning loss. This is our reading district-wide. Grade 4, 6, 7, 8, and 10 were consistently below in all 4 years. Grade 5 was consistently above, and every grade except grade 5 decreased from in that time span. And science, 8th grade was below in all 4 years. High school then turned right around and was above in all 4 years. And then every grade except high school decreased from 2019 to 2021. Special education, there really just is not enough data to generate, or not enough of a sample size to generate and to really look at trends for that group. Free and reduced, when you look at all of the data points across all of the years, we are at an overall 69% proficiency in this group over that 4 to 5 year span. And gender-wise, there's really not a lot of patterns that present in the performance of students based on gender, based on what we see in this presentation. Any questions about our MCA data? Okay, so the reason we tell you about the MCA data is so then we can look at the world's best workforce, because really what we're working on is looking at that whole child, and that is one piece of world's best workforce is test scores and those pieces. So first of all, the first slide you're going to see is who makes up our student population, because World's Best Workforce really wants us to look at who are our students and who are our staff that make up the population, and do they kind of match. So when you look at this, our students are primarily white. And then who makes up our teaching population? On the left is the degrees, so the bachelor's degree, and then the gold on that side is the advanced degrees. And then MDE has some definitions for an ineffective, inexperienced, out of field, and a tenured teacher. So an ineffective teacher is defined as someone who is not meeting professional standards, as defined by our local teacher development and education system. An inexperienced teacher is someone who is taught for 3 or less years, so is not tenured. An out of field teacher is someone who's licensed, but is providing instruction in an area that they don't have that license in, but they're pursuing. So you can see that we have just that little smidgen of blue there, and those are 2 teachers that are in Spanish who are not fully licensed as teachers, but they're licensed in Spanish. And then our tenured teachers are defined as teachers who have successfully completed a 3-year probationary period. When you look at World's Best Workforce, the first area that World's Best Workforce asks us to report on is kindergarten readiness. So what you will see on these next slides are 3 different columns. On the column on the left will be the goal that was identified for 2020, 2021, then the result of that goal, and then the goal recommendation. We brought this to the leadership group for the district, including staff, and then we brought this to the World's Best Workforce. There was an American Indian parent group that we brought this to. So many people have seen this, and you guys as the board have seen this at a work session as well. So lots of people have seen this presentation and have helped us to put goals and strategies together. So the goal for 2020, 2021 was that 100% of the early childhood students who are eligible for kindergarten would be screened before they came to kindergarten. The result of that was, yep, we indeed had 100%.
And we feel like that's a really good goal. We want all of our kiddos to be screened before, have early childhood screening before they come to kindergarten. Some of the ways, the next one, some of the strategies are that we offer screening, 2 screenings per year, so they're planned screenings. And then we're also small enough that we are able to personalize screenings as needed. So if a new kid moves in or somebody comes to school and they haven't been screened, in an ECFE program, we can get them screened within a reasonable amount of time. The second part of World's Best Workforce is 3rd grade literacy proficiency. So our goal for 2020, 2021 in that area was that the percentage of 3rd grade students meeting or exceeding standards on all state tests will increase from 58 to 60%. What actually happened was we went down from 58 to 53.3%. And our goal, what we set for our recommendation for the next year was that we would, again, try for that 60%. The ways that we want to achieve that, we've implemented a new benchmark reading curriculum at the elementary school. We're working on aligning standards, continuing to develop our priority standards, and then having those assessments, for classes be developed based on proficiency scales. Also implementing learning targets. So when you walk into a room, kids know what they're learning, what they need to know before they leave that room. And then doing some progress monitoring 3 times a year. So instead of looking at just the MCAs as the big time that we do some testing, really kind of doing that temperature check on kiddos 3 times a year with just our own progress monitoring, and then having the MCA, and hoping that those, we would really anticipate that those would align to each other. So we would have a good indication on how kiddos would do if we're progress monitoring. We would have a good indication on how they might do on the MCAs. Closing the achievement gap is the next area that we look at for World's Best Workforce. The goal for 2020, 2021 was that the percentage of students receiving special education services who earn a partially meets or exceeds the standards in math increases from 55.8 to 60%. And what ended up happening was that group went down to 52.3%. In MCAs, there's a does not meet, a partially meets, a meets, and an exceeds. So the meets and exceeds are the 2 scores that give you a meets. The partially meets and the does not meet give you the does not meet score. So we included the partially meets because we want kids to go from not meeting to increasing to at least partially meets. Our goal recommendation for this year is that we really want to try to get to that 60% again. And the way we're going to do that is many of the same things, aligning those standards. And one thing added on was explaining the why to students. Why are we doing this? Why do we need to know this? Closing the achievement gap, the other part of this is looking at that free and reduced population. So our goal again was the kiddos who were at partially meets, or exceeds, we wanted them to go from 65% to 78%. That what actually happened was we ended up at 62.9%. So our goal for this one is, when we looked at this goal, we thought, whew, we really had it in for ourselves to go from 65 to 78. That's a big jump. So we thought we might just choose kind of more of the middle road and try to get back to 65 and then go from there. And again, the way we want to do that are those same things, aligning those standards, implementing learning targets, and progress monitoring so we can anticipate. The next part of World's Best Workforce is college and career ready. We want our students to be college and career ready. And our goal for this in 2020, 2021 was the percentage of students who earn an achievement level of meets or exceeds will increase from 48.1 to 55%. What actually happened was we went from 48.1, we did increase to 48.5, but we didn't get to our goal. We really feel like a reasonable goal is still, we want to get to that 55%. So that was what we put in for our goal. And one of the strategies that actually we had students who were at one of our meetings talked about was to really reiterate to students that using some registration strategies, ensuring that they don't leave their hardest classes to the last year that they're in school, because it's a really difficult year and they're pretty stressed with trying to make college decisions and those sorts of things. So that was kind of a neat thing that kids came up with. Another goal in college and career ready, we looked at the math standards and we wanted that to increase from 52.9% to 57%. What actually ended up happening was it went down to 42.8. And we feel like we picked, again, the middle of the road, trying to go from 42.8 to 55% is our goal. Again, using those same strategies and with those registration strategies in addition. Then we looked at, for college and career ready, we looked at science. Our goal was to go from 56.2% to 60%. We ended up going down to 47.6%, but we really feel like because science has been typically pretty steady throughout, we've done pretty well. We felt like 60 was attainable. So we chose 60% as the goal for this coming year, using again, some of those same strategies. And the last part of World's Best Workforce is the graduation rates. So the goal for 2020, 2021 was that all students who are eligible to graduate at Royalton Public Schools in 4 years will remain above 90%. Again, we met that goal. We were at 92.2%. We had lots of discussion about making this potentially a higher goal, but when you have the number of kids that we do to move that even 1%, that might, if one kiddo in the grade doesn't graduate on time in 4 years, that might ruin your 90%. So we decided to leave it at 90%. And some of the strategies that we want to use to achieve that are the high school principal and counseling staff are meeting with juniors and seniors to discuss graduation requirements. Principal monitors students who are at risk, again, using those registration strategies, and then also making parents aware of options to help their child graduate. Because we want all kids to graduate in 4 years, doesn't always mean that they need to graduate the traditional way. So giving them, looking at what options might be available to help their child graduate. That is our World's Best Workforce. Any questions you have for me? I went through that really fast.
I have a question.
All right.
So in our goals, and how we're going to execute some of it. So we're going to do some more of the testing, not just an MCA testing. Do the teachers have time to look at that data and change course? I mean, that data is not just going to go on a shelf somewhere and not get used, right? I mean, I'm hoping that there's a plan to use that to help them.
So that is the whole purpose of a PLC. We have PLC time, and that is one of the main purposes is to look at student data and to look at that information as a group, whereas maybe you're looking at it, you can look at it many different ways. You can look at it as a grade level, you can look at it from grade level to grade level. So lots of different ways to look at that data.
Just want to make sure that they have the time to, because we can't do as a school board what the federal government does to us as a school and just put more mandates on and oh, you're going to do this now and you're going to do this now and you're going to do this now. And I just want to make sure that they got the time to actually look at the data and because I mean, it sounds right. I mean, if you're going to take some time and look at it and try to get your trends going the right way, then that's how to do it. So that's just a question I had. So.
And it's much better to look at it multiple times rather than you've worked really hard with kiddos and one time a year you think, okay, this year it's going to be the great year. And then they take the test and you're like, oh, are you kidding me? What happened? And so this way you'll have more of a trend and be able to kind of anticipate how things might go for kids.
And if you're looking at that data across time and by strands and you're focusing on where some of the gaps might be, even if they had a bad day on the MCA, based on all your other formative assessments and those other checkpoints that I know student A is better than what that MCA because he or she was not feeling.
It doesn't necessarily need to get looked at by one person in a room on one computer. It needs multiple eyes and the collaboration and just so that we're sure that we're still giving them time to do that. Because I know, when we decided to do the PLC time now, one of the questions was, well, what happens once we get curriculum all aligned? Well, there's always work, right? So well, we're just gonna be done and then we're done, right? When are we gonna get this done? Check mark, so.
And the other thing to know about progress monitoring is short. So it's like 20 to 30 minutes versus the MCA that is much longer. So this is quick, short bursts of being able to check this information.
All right, that's the only question I had.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
All right. So we're going to move on in the agenda here to the technology integrationist specialist contract. I have it right here. Everybody has it in their packet. Everybody's seen it. I'll move it for adoption.
I'll second.
Moved by Director Hackett and seconded by Director Hofstad to approve the technology integration specialist contract. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstain. Motion passes 6-0-0. All right, REM contract. Everybody's seen that? Is there a motion to approve that? I'll move that too. Is there a second?
Second that one too.
Moved by Director Hackett and seconded by Director Hofstad to approve the REM contract that's included in your packets. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All who oppose? All who abstain?
Aye, me.
Oh, you, that's why I didn't think I heard 6. Okay. So, point of order. So it's 5-0-1. So then does abstention go with the majority? So motion passes 6-0-0. Thank you. All right. Minnesota State High School League Form A. So this is the from the Minnesota State High School League, and it's a resolution that we're going to yeah, do you want to speak to this?
Yeah.
Great.
Every year but last year, the high school league has a couple different grant applications, the high school foundation of the high school league. And things that they get in like sales tax, some state tournament stuff, they're getting money back to the schools. And this year for this program, they're getting back $450,000. And what this Form A is based off of is free and reduced students that participate in programs. So the intent of Form A is to reimburse schools, offsetting some of the costs associated with free and reduced lunch kids that don't pay the same activity fee as everybody else. It's just a supplement type of a thing. So I know they're pushing it hard. Mr. Swenson's gotten several emails forwarded to me about this as he's on the region committee. I've gotten several as well. They just want this in so they can distribute those dollars to the schools on an equitable basis. So.
Okay. Can you help me out on this one?
Yeah.
Do you know what they want when it says the governing board of? Do they want District 485? Do they want Royalton Schools? Do they want?
I think Royalton Public Schools is
all right.
Is fine.
All right. Any other questions for Tony? All right, thank you. Is there any discussion on this? It is a resolution, but it's not in the normal resolution format. So I'm going to read it to you. Resolution of governing board supporting Form A application to Minnesota State High School League Foundation. Whereas the Minnesota State High School League Foundation was formed to provide support for Minnesota's high school youth to participate in athletics and fine arts. Whereas the governing board of Royalton Public Schools recognizes the value of student participation in extracurricular activities. And whereas the Minnesota State High School League Foundation is offering grants and funding to assist schools in recognizing, promoting, and funding extracurricular participation by high school students in athletic and fine arts program. Therefore, be it resolved that the governing board of Royalton Public Schools supports the school's application to the Minnesota State High School League Foundation for a Form A grant to offset student activity fees. So everybody's happy with that? I don't know, somebody gotta move this and second it. All right. Somebody wanna move it?
I'll move it.
Moved by Director Bauman,
Seconded.
seconded by Director Garretts to approve the Form A resolution for the Minnesota State High School League. All those in favor? Oh, we gotta do a roll call if it's a resolution. Will you call the roll?
Director Bowman,
I,
Director Garretts.
Aye.
Director Hackett,
Aye.
Director Hofstad, aye, Director Lang,
Aye.
Director Roaring.
Okay, let it be known that the resolution passes 6-0-0. All righty. Going on to policy readings. First reading policy. Protection and privacy of pupil records and internet acceptable use and safety policy. And second reading policies is equal education opportunity, public and private personnel data, student attendance, corporal punishment, and school meals policy. So, and then we got approval of second and third reading policies. Number 206 is the public participation in school board meetings. 413, harassment and violence. 501, school weapons policy. Let's do them first. Let's do those three. 206. Does anybody object to doing those three together?
Well, I can make that motion to approve 206, 413, and 501.
I'll second.
Moved by Director Hofstad and seconded by Director Lang to approve policy 206, 413, and 501. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstain. Motion passes 6-0-0. Approval of third reading policy, number 902. Somebody want to move that?
I'll move that.
For a second?
second.
It was moved by Director Hofstad and seconded by Director Bauman to approve policy 902, use of school district facilities and equipment. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? And all abstain. Motion passes 6-0-0. Item I, safe deposit box. Okay, so we need to remove, we need a motion to remove Don DeVell and replace that with Scott Marine.
I'll make the motion to remove Don and add Scott.
Second.
All right, it was moved by Director Garretts, seconded by Director Bauman to remove Don DeVell and add Scott Marine as the, what is that? Signer for the safe deposit box. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstain. Motion passes 6-0-0. Upcoming meeting schedule. We got Monday, December 13th, Truth and Taxation at 6 o'clock. We got December 20th, regular board meeting at 6 o'clock, followed by a closed session. December 14th, 9 a.m. policy. It's good time. December 21st, 12 p.m. finance meeting. That would be 1,200 hours. That's a good time too. You're not doing anything? Just come on in. All right. Somebody wanna move this meeting into a closed session?
A motion.
Is there a second?
Yep.
Moved by Director Hofstad, second by moved by Director Bauman, second by Director Hofstad to move the meeting into closed session as permitted by Minnesota statute section 13D.050 subdivision 3. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All who oppose? I'll abstain. Meeting goes into closed session. We'll, motion passes 6-0-0. Meeting goes to closed session and we resume in 10 to 8.